At the time of recording, it has been only a couple of days since the president of Nintendo, Furukawa, announced that there would be a Nintendo Direct that would be discussing the future of the console. Now, many people are very excited about this because it also said in that tweet that they would be discussing the Nintendo Switch successor. Now, they said they would not announce the successor, but let's be honest, they are going to talk about the Nintendo Switch successor in the Direct. This is the first time Nintendo has actually officially themselves talked about a successor to the Nintendo Switch. So that has people really excited about what is to come. Now, that Direct most likely is just going to be telling you what the final games are for 2024, maybe a couple for 2025. But I have a feeling as well that they will be talking about the Switch 2 as well, as it's been codenamed by fans. That probably won't be its name. It'll have an actual name. But for now, we call it the Switch 2. So what I want to discuss here is video games that could be launch titles slash released for Switch 2 very soon after its launch. Now, the rumor going around is that it will be coming out in March next year, is going to be when it will hit the shelves. So I just want to talk about 6 games that I think will be launch titles or, come out like a month after it releases. So the first one is something I think that is a no-brainer. We're going to get a 3D Mario game. There's going to be a brand new 3D Mario game for the new console, Switch 2. This happens every time a new console comes out. Almost immediately, one of the first things that comes out about a month later is a new 3D Mario. Of course, we had the Switch with Super Mario Odyssey, right? So there we go. We had, I believe, for the Wii U, it was 3D World, wasn't it? Like very shortly after the Wii came out, the Wii U, sorry, it was a 3D World. And then, the Wii had Super Mario Galaxy. There's always a big 3D Mario game on the new console. And there hasn't been one for the Switch in forever because they like to do it where it's one new big Mario game for the console. I mean, you could say 3D World port, technically, but that's a port, It's not doing anything. It's just taking the game from the Wii U and putting it on Switch. We're talking about a brand new, completely from the ground up 3D Mario game. Is probably going to come out shortly after the Switch 2 launches. And since the Switch 2 is supposed to launch around March, I would say about May next year. So around this time next year, we're probably going to get a new 3D Mario. Of course, another thing that is a staple for Switch consoles is a new Zelda game. I don't think we're going to get a new Zelda game right away. I think it's going to be a long while before we get a new Legend of Zelda game. So what I propose is that for the Switch 2 on launch, we are going to get a port of Tears of the Kingdom right away. I think that this is going to be something that they would optimize for the Switch 2, is a Tears of the Kingdom port right away. Now, I was going to say Breath of the Wild. However, the problem with this list is they've said that the next console will be backwards compatible, so they don't necessarily need to make like ports of Switch games for the Switch 2. It's just you just buy the Switch game and then you can play it on your old console, on the new console. Which, that makes sense. That's what backwards compatibility is, and that's the point of backwards compatibility, and that's why everyone loves backwards compatibility so much. But in some cases, they do still make a newer version of the game for the new console, and I think Tears of the Kingdom is something they will do to try and boost sales for Tears of the Kingdom as well. Just add a bit more onto it. Not that they need to, but just it wouldn't hurt to add a bit more sales, I think. So I think Tears of the Kingdom, and plus, it would be nice for everyone to be like, who gets the new console, be like, oh boy, a new version of Tears of the Kingdom, yeah. Because some people would just buy it just because of that. The next thing I think is coming, and these games now are all games that have been announced but have yet to come out. And my feeling is that they will be, instead of released for the Switch, they'll just be pushed back and delayed and will be launch titles for the Switch 2. So the first one we're going to talk about is Hollow Knight Silksong. Now, this is the sequel to Hollow Knight, a very loved indie game. And I don't think Nintendo would... it says that it is, scheduled for Nintendo Switch. I think Nintendo, all they'll do is they'll just ask them to change that to Nintendo Switch 2. I think that is probably what they're going to do. Now, the problem with this is, of course, it's made by a different company, This isn't a Nintendo product, or Nintendo can outright just be like, oh yeah, have it, it'll be ready in time for March next year. It's like, no, they do have to wait for Silksong to finish. But what I'm saying is, I don't think Silksong is going to take too much longer to be done. And I think Nintendo, instead of putting it on the Switch, they'll just say, hey, let's just straight up just put it on the new one. There's no point putting it on the old one, just put it on the new one. The next 3 games are now Nintendo games, which now are more than likely, I think, to get announced and put on the Switch 2. So the first one is Pokemon Legends A to Z. This was announced at the recent Pokemon Direct for 2025. So again, next console comes out 2025. I think instead of putting it on the Nintendo Switch, they just say, hey, put the Pokemon game on the Switch 2 as a launch title. It'll be the first Pokemon game for the Switch 2, Pokemon Legends A to Z. And I mean, that's a big game to have as a launch title. Pokemon games sell gangbusters. Even if they're crap, they sell gangbusters. Hell, they sell Pokemon Snap again, and people bought it. The next one is Professor Layton and the New World of Steam. People have been wanting a Professor Layton game for a long time, and this was again announced at a Direct, I believe, last year. And for 2025, that's all it says. So again, my thing is that then Nintendo instead will just straight up put it as a launch title for the Nintendo Switch 2 instead. Why put it on the old one? Put it on the new one. I cannot say much about this because I have not delved into the Professor Layton games, but I'm sure that would be a great launch title because I know the name of Professor Layton. I just haven't seen anything about the games, so I think that would be a pretty big launch title for the Switch 2. And finally here, we have Metroid Prime 4. I think this is the big one that everyone expects will be a Switch 2 launch title. This game has been delayed countless times. They delayed it once before because they essentially restarted development on the game from the ground up to make this. And at this point, I don't see the point of putting Metroid Prime, a game as huge as Metroid Prime 4, as a Nintendo Switch title. At this point, there's no point. Like, if it's done right now, honestly, there's no point in putting it on the Switch. Really, like, if Nintendo announces it as like a holiday title this year, I maybe as like the final big Switch title, but I don't think so. I think the best possible thing is to have Metroid Prime 4 be a launch title for your new console, because everyone's gonna buy it. Everyone's gonna rush to it because people have been wanting Metroid Prime 4 forever, and you've announced it years ago, and then it finally comes out for that new console. People are gonna rush to the store, especially if Metroid Prime 4 is a pack-in game for the console. That is a risky move, but it's Metroid Prime 4, and I think you can do it. But if it's a pack-in game for the console, oh, you're gonna sell copies and copies, like so much. So those are the about 6 games I believe will be launch titles for the Nintendo Switch 2 when it launches next March. Rumored. What do you think of my picks? Do you think they're good? Do you have any ideas for games that could be launch titles for the Nintendo Switch 2? Let me know in the comments, and I will see you all next time.